You are listening to Bhagavad Gita for All, a practical guide for everyday life. A lecture series by Nalan Narula. Chapter 1. Observing the armies on the battlefield and the consequences of war.
Welcome to Bhagavad Gita for All. And today we are going to be starting with the second verse. And our reference book is Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami's Bhagavad Gita as it is. You can consider that your course book, those of you who want to study this additionally. It's a good book. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So the first shlok was, we had done that last time. Dharam Kshetre Kurukshetre Samveta Yuyutsava Mamaka Pandavaishchava Kim Kurvata Sanjaya. So at that time, Dhritarashtra had asked his secretary that at the Dharmkshetra, which is the place of dharma, the proper discharge of one's duties, the place known as the field of the Kurus, what are the armies doing there, and particularly Mamaka, my sons, and Pandava, the other side. What are they doing, Sanjay? And last time it had been brought out that actually that was not the real question, and we had asked if you knew what was behind that question, and eventually the understanding was that Dhritarashtra was afraid that Duryodhana would lose. So he was actually asking who would win. And the answer to that question is given in the last shlok of the Bhagavad Gita, the 18th chapter, 78th shlok. And the answer is that wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjun, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power and morality. That is my opinion, said Sanjay. So Dhritarashtra already knew what was going to happen at the end of the battle. So that was a bit of disheartening news, because his question was that, but Sanjay didn't answer it till much later, but he expressed his apprehension. So now we have the second verse. Drestva tu Pandavanikam Vyuddham Duryodhanastada Acharyam Upasangamya Raja Vachanam Abravit. Sanjay is reporting that after seeing over the armies that have been arranged in the military formation, the phalanxes, by the son of Pandu, King Duryodhana went to his teacher. So who is his teacher?
Dronacharya.
And spoke the following words. Pashyaitam Panduputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum Vyuddham Drupada Putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata. So he is pointing out, behold, Pashya, to see the sons of Pandu, my teacher, see this great army, very expertly arranged by your very intelligent disciple, the son of Drupad. Drupad was, Prabhupada's commentary is that Drupad was enemy to Dronacharya, And Drupad performed a great sacrifice by which he received the benediction of having a son who would be able to kill Dronacharya. So he is Dhrishtadyumna, and he approached Dronacharya to teach him this, how to kill him. So he taught him, this is how you can kill me. So that is the code of the Brahminical warrior. He was a Brahmin, and Brahmin will tell somebody anything even if it is not in his interest. So that is a Brahminical trait, that you will speak and you will give the knowledge even to your enemy. So Dronacharya taught this to Dhrishtadyumna, and now basically you can say that Duryodhana is kind of sarcastically pointing it out, perhaps. Then we come to the fourth text. Atra shura maheshvasa bhimarjunam samayudhi yuyudhano viratascha drupadascha maharatha. So in this army, in this great army, there are many heroic bowmen, Maheshvasa. Maheshvasa is Maha Ishuasa, the great bowmen, and Bhim and Arjun, equal to them, equal to Bhim and Arjun in their capacity, and great fighters like Yuyudhan and Virat and Drupad. Now, a Maharatha is a person who can kill 11,000, or he can oppose 11,000 bowmen simultaneously without being defeated. So that is a Maharatha or a Maharathi, right? So these are very powerful warriors, and they are very strong. They have a good force on the front line, and the comparison is to Bhim and Arjun because their prowess is well known to Duryodhana. Then there is the fifth text. Drishtaketuscha chekitanah kashirajascha viryavan purujeta kuntibhojascha Saibhyascha narapungavaha. There is Drishtaketu, Chekitana, Kashiraj, and the very powerful Purujit, and there is Kuntibhoj and Shaibhya, and these people are heroes in society and very, very powerful warriors. So this is a roll call of all the great warriors that are gathered there, starting from the side of the Pandavas. Then there is the sixth text. Yudhamanyuscha vikranta utamaujascha viryavan saubhadro draupadeyascha Sarva eva Maharatha. So, mighty Yudhamanyu, very powerful Uttamauj, son of Subhadra, and the sons of Draupadi. And all these warriors are great chariot fighters. Very, very powerful. In the seventh verse, Asmakam tu vishishtaye tan niboda dvijottamam nayaka mam sainyasya samgyanartham tana bravimite. And he is saying Nibodha, just for your information, FYI. Okay, of the best of the Brahmins, Dvija Uttama, the best of the twice born, who take birth twice, one who is born from the material parents, and then he is born by the Brahminical initiation by the spiritual master, so that is twice born, being connected to the divine energies, to the Brahminical energies, to Brahma, the spirit, to the light. So just for your information, all that is there, but let me tell you about the others on my side who are very, very qualified leaders and captains who are going to be leading my military force. Lest, these people are very powerful, it's a bit scary, but we are no less. We've also got a lot of warriors. So, the 8th text, Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha Kripascha Samitim Jayah Ashwathama Vikarnascha Somadatteva Tevascha. There are personalities like yourself, your very good self, Bhavan, respected personality Bhishma, then there is Karna, then there is Kripa, then there is Ashwathama, Vikarna, and the son of Somdat, known as Bhurishrava, who are always victorious in battle. They are undefeated warriors. And the reminder is that Karan is also a son of Kunti before she got married. So he's half brother to the Pandavas, and he's on our side, and he is an invincible warrior, as has been known. He had a special blessing from his father, who was the sun god. So Kripacharya's twin sister is married to Dronacharya. So he's reminding that there is a whole family plus a familial relationship where there are very, very powerful, qualified warriors. Text number 9. Anyacha bhava shura madarte tyakta jivita nana shastra praharana sarva yuddha visharada. Visharada, yuddha visharada. Experienced, very experienced in the fighting warfare science. There are many others who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. So there is some inkling. I think we are all going to die. But here are the people who are very well qualified to die and to perform. And they are very well equipped, and we'll give a good fight and all that kind of boosting one's own morale and talking to his guru. And of course, Duryodhana is at the same time thinking, because we have so many powerful warriors on our side, we are definitely going to win. There is no question about it. But yet there is some internal voice, the voice of fear, maybe, or the voice of truth. Something is happening inside. Text number 10. Apariyaptam tadasmakam balam bhishma bhirakshitam paryaptam tu idam etasham balam bhima bhirakshitam. Bhima bhirakshitam, carefully protected by Bhim. He is talking about the other side. So he's saying our strength is immeasurable, very great, huge. Asmakam balam, our strength is very huge. Aparyaptam, immeasurable. But paryaptam, limited, is all this strength of the Pandavas. The Pandavas are limited. And why are they limited? Because they have less force and they have less number of people against the Kauravas, and they are very carefully protected by Bhim. Bhim abhirakshitam. Bhim is very, very protective because he knows his force is very limited, even though there may be some very powerful warriors. So we have nothing to worry, in other words. So the 11th text. Ayaneshu cha sarveshu yatha bhagam avasthita bhishvam eva bhairakshantu bhavanta sarvaiva hi. Now he's talked about all these great warriors, and he's now seeing there are other warriors who are wondering, what about us? So he says, all of you, he's addressing them now, all of you, bhavanta sarve, all of you must now give full support to grandsire, grandfather Bhishma, as you stand at your respective strategic points of entrance into the phalanx of the army. So don't move from your posts, because Bhishma is very qualified, but he's old. So your job is to protect him. Whereas in the previous slok, Bhim is being seen to be protecting the entire Pandav force. He's telling the rest of his force that you must protect Bhishma. Okay, he is the key. He may be engaged from all sides by all the other opponents because they know that Bhishma is a very powerful warrior, so they may suddenly attack him and form a focus of attack. So your job is to make sure that he is fine. Text number 12. Tasya sanjayana harasham kuru vridha pitamah simmanadam vinadyochahe shankam dadhamau pratapavan. Tasya sanjanyan harsham, happy, cheerful, to try and increase the happiness of Duryodhana, who is pretty depressed by this time, actually. Bhishma pitamah simhanadam vinadya shankam dadhamau. Like the sound of a roaring lion, he blew his conch shell. Pratapvan, virya, valiant, powerful, strong. So, when Bhishma heard this talk by Duryodhana, trying to increase the confidence of his army, he knew that he was actually depressed. So then, with a sound like a roaring lion, he answered only by blowing the conch shell. So he did not reply in words, he did not state anything, he just blew his conch shell to indicate that we are ready for battle. It is our dharma to fight, and then whether we live or we die doesn't matter, we will execute our duty, our dharma, and do the best, the absolute best that we can. And then the 13th shlok, Tata Shankascha Bhairyascha Panavanaka Gomukha Sahaseva Bharyanta Sashabdastumalo Abhavat. So after that, the conch shells, the drums, the bugles, the trumpets and horns were all simultaneously suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous. It filled the entire sky, it reverberated amongst the armies, and it created a huge, huge sound vibration of power, of strength, of readiness to do battle, to fight, and everybody got their energies pumping up. So we will stop here for today, and tomorrow we will look at the next part. What happens after that? This is the sounding of the conch shells, the trumpets, the drums, in preparation to sound the actual battle cry for attack. So on both sides you have the armies arrayed. There is the strength of the Pandavas on one side, and there is the strength of Duryodhana and his army. And Duryodhana, although he has the numbers, internally he is feeling that he is not really going to make it, but he has found himself stuck in this position, or he has found himself led into this position by his own actions and the way he dealt with situations in the past. And that position is now he has no option but to go forward, and he cannot retreat, because that is against the Kshatriya code, that is against the code of the warriors. And because he cannot retreat, he has no option but to fight. So there are warriors on both sides which are equivalent to Arjun, Bhim in terms of battle. There are other great warriors named previously, so many great warriors on both sides. The Pandavas have less numbers, we have greater numbers, but at the same time there is a nagging doubt. To cut that short, Bhishma said, enough of this before it gets into a low energy cycle, into a depressive cycle, and spreads through the army. Let me sound the conch shell and let me just cut this whole conversation short. And so he sounded his conch shell and sounded like the roaring of a lion. And then all the bugles, trumpets, drums from their side started playing very loudly, loud sound. The armies are churning, ready to battle. There is dust rising, and they're all ready to battle. And that's where we leave the scene today. So, any questions?
The dharma of Brahman.
The dharma of a Brahmin?
They have to give the knowledge even if it's...
Yes, they will share knowledge readily. That is the nature. So even to give the truth, even though the enemy may twist it and misuse it.
What's the difference between nature and dharma then?
The thing is that everyone's nature requires a particular dharma. According to one's nature, one has to understand what is his dharma. For example, the dharma of a Brahmin is to be connected to the divine, to speak the truth, to tell the truth, no matter even if it harms them. It is not in his nature to fight that way. The nature of a Kshatriya is to fight. They are politicians, they are commanders of the army, they are battle-hardened people, they are fighters. Then there is the Vaishyas, who are the productive class. The Kshatriyas are also the administrators, politicians, business, this, that. Corporate heads, you can say today, are Kshatriyas in a way. Because you hear their corporate interaction, they talk about takeovers, just like you're attacking somebody's ship and boarding it like pirates and taking it over, and mergers, all those things are Kshatriya things. Whereas the Vaishya are the productive class, they are the, you can say, farmers initially, mainly, that they're agrarians, agriculture, their job is agriculture, trade, manufacturing. Then there is Shudra, who are labor, helpers and workers. Now, within these four divisions, you have sub-cycles. Like Dronacharya is a Brahmin, but he's a Kshatriya. So you have a Brahmin, a Brahmin Kshatriya, a Brahmin Vaishya, a Brahmin Shudra. Then you have a Kshatriya who has more of some Brahminical quality, but more of Kshatriya. You understand? So it's a mix and match.
Actually, that's what I was coming along, that the nature can change.
The nature can't change. It is, no. The nature is the nature. And as much as you do to reveal your nature, different layers will be revealed. The nature is not changed. It's just a combination of two. Like Dronacharya is a Brahmin Kshatriya. He's a Brahmin warrior. Parshuram was a Brahmin warrior. So you have those things also happening. Whereas you can say Bharat was a Kshatriya Shudra because he was known as Jad Bharat, because he didn't speak. In his next life he became Jad Bharat, and he became one of 4 sons who was supposed to be deaf and dumb, and his job was only to work in the fields. And it was a great internal meditation, and he was extremely elevated soul. So you have these narratives in Bhagavatam and other literatures of transcendental nature, and from that you can understand it's not that the nature has changed. The essential nature remains. Like in this lifetime, if let's say somebody is a teacher, a healer, they are all Brahmin. A doctor is a Brahmin. Supposed to be. But then they can have other overlays. So we are talking about the Dvija, the twice born, those who are connected to the light. So as healers, as Reiki channels, KQ channels, you are all connected to the light. And we have mentioned this earlier, that you are to be considered as initiated Dvija. Now if there is a Brahmin, it doesn't mean that he does only teaching, he can be a cook. So that may be a Shudra occupation, or he may be an architect, which is also considered to be a Shudra occupation, because you're working in construction and materials and so on. So it is a Shudra occupation, at best a Vaishya occupation. Actually it doesn't fit Vaishya, because Vaishyas manufacture and growth and industry of that kind, like agriculture and so on, trade. So it is more of a Shudra enterprise. So Vishwakarma was a Brahmin architect. So like that.
So the people working in the king's kitchen, who are they? Brahmins?
Yes. Don't you have Brahmin Maharajas? The tradition continues. Today you have कि हमको महाराज चाहिए जी, किचन में वो पकाएगा, वो ब्राह्मणिकल है तो अच्छा खाना पकाएगा, खूब अच्छे से घी शी लगा के देगा हमको, है ना?
Then they were Brahmin, not Brahmin Shudra.
Yeah, they're Brahmin Shudra. I mean, I'm talking about the subcategory. It's not that they're Brahmin. They're Brahmin subclass worker. See, it is by occupation. It is not by anything else. What is your occupation? What is your work that you do? If in this lifetime your work is to cook, then you are certainly not falling in the Vaishya category. You are certainly not falling in the Kshatriya category, and you are certainly not in the Brahmin category. But if you get Brahmin initiation or you become a healer, then you are a Brahmin Shudra, worker. You are a worker. It's not a pejorative term. There's nothing wrong with being a worker. Without the workers, where would you be? They are the legs that carry you everywhere. They are very, very important parts of the body. Extremely important parts. Without the workers, you don't achieve. Without help, you don't achieve anything. So you may be very qualified, you may be having a great idea, but unless you have people who help you, whatever category they are, let's leave that aside for a moment. Unless you have the inputs and help of others, you are not likely to progress very far. So you need helpers.
So about nature, just wanted to understand.
Sure.
When a child is born, let's say he's born in a Brahminical family,
Right.
he would become a Brahman once he goes through
He would be initiated.
once he's initiated, once
Yes.
he understands that this is how he has to perform, and these
Yeah.
are
But he may choose not to follow that path.
But he will still remain a Brahmin.
As long as he's doing Brahminical things, yes. As long as, see, you have a technical connection by being linked to the divine. A Brahmin is not by birth. A Brahmin is not by technicals. It is by gun and karma. Chatur varnayam maya ashritam guna karna vibhagasa. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that I divide all of human society into 4 ashrams and 4 divisions. Ashrams are the places of shelter, and the divisions are according to the gun and their karma according to their quality of nature and their actions. Both are considered. If you are born in a Brahmin family but you are not Brahminical, you are not Brahmin. You are a technical Brahmin, but it's irrelevant because you are not following. Somebody may be Shudra and following a very Brahminical lifestyle. He is Brahmin. There's no question and argument about that as far as all the authorities are concerned. It is by Guna and Karma.
Narad Muni, in his previous life,
He was born of a serving woman, and then he received a lot of gyan from people that he served. The visiting spiritualists came and he served them for a long time. And then they asked him, who's your father? He said, I don't know. He said, you're Brahmin. Speaking the truth. So they said, fine, we will transfer our knowledge to you. You're very qualified. He served them very diligently. A young boy.
in his next life, he was born as Narad Muni, who is the spiritual master of all mankind.
So, like that. So, it is by guna and karma. It is not just by karma. And it is not just by gun. Gun and karma.
I think the confusion I have is that gun,
The quality, the nature.
the quality, nature,
Yes.
doesn't that change? Or once you are born in the lifetime, that is the...
No, your
that you
quality
have.
can be, in what context are you saying? When we say a person, no, good and karma, these two are linked. Let's just separate these two for a minute in terms of our understanding. If a person is working, let's say he is in the armed forces, he doesn't want to fight because he's thinking, I'm Brahminical. Arjun actually went through that whole thing. And Krishna told him, no, your job, your karma is to be a protector of the people and the protector of dharma. So you will execute that job. You cannot now say, I am taking retirement and going to the forest. No, not allowed. You may be internally Brahminical, but you are placed in this position in this lifetime.
Because you are qualified and trained as a Kshatriya, a warrior.
That is your primary duty. Now, of all the Pandavas, Yudhishthir was the most Brahminical because he never spoke a lie. But he was a warrior. But he had such a difficult time. And he was the only one who actually went to the heavenly planets when all the others didn't go because he had renounced everything, his family, his brothers, everyone. He was entirely renounced. That is Brahmin. Renounce. It is guna and karma. So don't equate things which are not equatable. Understand them in their individual light. A person may be placed anywhere, but his internal trait is something else. And in this life, he may be doing something which is fine. Because those are his karmic debts, his duties that he has to discharge. So guna and karma both are important. You can be a Brahmin and yet fighting on the battlefield. What is there? All of them were Brahmins because they were initiated Brahmins, but they're not Brahmins in that pure Brahminical sense of being, with the scriptures and with the temple worship and the deity worship maybe and all that thing. They're not that kind of Brahmins. So we should not call them Brahmins. It is understood that all the four classes, let me explain here. The Kshatriya, the Brahmin, the Kshatriya, the Shudra, the Vaishya are all initiated Brahmins in Vedic society. They are initiated into Brahminical culture. But they follow their occupation. Their occupational duty is different. So don't confuse yourself with this any further because it can get very complicated. Keep it simple. The person is in Vedic society, everyone is supposed to have Brahminical initiation, but their gun, their internal quality and qualification and their activity determines where they are in life that time.
At that time.
Yes, for this lifetime.
But
For this lifetime. And let me also say another thing here, that Bhakti Vinod Thakur has said that Brahmin is not forever. In this life you are Brahmin, wherever you last life, where will you be next life, we do not know. So it's not so relevant in that sense. Okay? You only need to focus that I am connected to the Brahma spirit energy, the universal life force. Brahma means universal life force energy, Reiki, in other words. So when you are connected to Reiki or the KQ force, you are Brahmin. But you will execute your duties according to your gun and karma, keeping the Brahminical principles in mind. So that's how you elevate yourself internally. You don't necessarily have to become Brahmin. You don't have to renounce everything. You don't have to wear saffron clothes to actually achieve spiritual emancipation. It's not required. Most of the world will not be doing it in any case. That's not how it was designed. They are the spiritual and religious guides, and then there are the Kshatriyas, the administrators, the warriors, the organizers, and then there are the Vaishyas, the productive class, and then there are the Shudras, the helpers, without whom you can't get anywhere, really. None of the other classes can go anywhere without the Shudras. And without the Vaishyas, nobody is going anywhere. If there's no food, there's no production, you're dead. And without the protectors and the managers and the administrators, your society is chaotic. And without guidance from the Brahmins, who are the head of the society, Brahmin is considered to be head of the society, the Kshatriyas are the chest and the arm, and the belly is the Vaishya, and the lower part, the legs, are the Shudras. So that is the entire bodily structure of society. So that's where we are in terms of any society. Krishna says, Chatur Varnayam Maya Ashritam. They have taken shelter of this according to these 4 gun and karma and 4 ashrams, which is, the ashram is of course the stages of life. You have the student stage, the brahmachari stage, where you are not indulging in sexual activity but you're focused on studies and so on. And then there is the householder stage, then there is the retirement stage, and then there is the sannyas. 4 stages, and it does not necessarily everybody goes through it. They may go through some aspect of it, but if you look at society worldwide, everybody is actually following these 4 and 4. Rightly or wrongly, or to what extent, is a different story, but they are all in those 4 orders. And there are societies divided into 4 classes. There is the intellectuals, the teachers, there is the administrators, the politicians, the managers, the diplomats. Then there are the warrior class in that. Then there is the productive class on which the whole society runs. And there are the legs, the Shudras, on which the whole society moves forward. Otherwise, where will they go? So these 4 classes comprise the entire bodily structure of any society anywhere in the world. There is no society in the world, the human kingdom, that doesn't follow these. There's the leadership, spiritual leadership, there's the material leadership, there is the productive leadership, and then there's the working leadership. So all leaders are there everywhere. Union leaders, so they're the Brahmins for the Shudras. Yes, why not? Highly qualified. So don't think of Shudra as a bad term. It's not a bad term. It's just a terminology of identifying the karma, the activity of the person. Yes. Last question.
Even when Arjun didn't want to fight,
Yes.
at that point of time, I would assume that he's not a Kshatriya.
No, he's a Kshatriya who's depressed.
Okay.
No, he's not suddenly not become a Kshatriya. He's just suddenly lost his cool and lost his strength to fight, because he's so depressed, because he's getting emotionally entangled. He was very emotionally disturbed that rather than kill my family members, I'd just go to the forest and retire. So Krishna says, then everybody will think you're a coward, and they will think you're a useless person. You will get ill fame throughout the 3 universes. On the other hand, if you fight and even if you die, your prowess will be resounding in the 3 universes. So you see. So which is why sometimes we also fight. We have to fight. There is no option. So fighting is there everywhere. You can't just retire to the forest and say, okay. Because then it will be tremendous defame. So fight. What is there? Why are you afraid? But fight rightly. Fight righteously. That is the message. And ultimately, you go with the light, you will be victorious. That's the message of the Gita. Wherever Arjuna is, wherever Krishna is, opulence, all kinds of opulence and success is there. Yes, somebody had their hand up. Hanji.
These four divisions were in all the four yugas.
Sorry?
These four divisions, the Kshatriyas, the Brahmins, they were in all the four yugas.
Yes, they were all in all the four yugas. Yes.
And when was the Mahabharata war fought?
About 6,000 years ago.
The Dwapar Yuga, or it was in the material?
It was the end of the Dwapar. When Krishna left, that was the beginning of the full-fledged form of Kali. But each age has a influence before it comes. It has its radiance that flows into the next age. And the age that is coming also has its influence. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
You've been listening to Bhagavad Gita for All, a lecture series by Nalan Narula on www.gettingpositivekarmanow.com. Chapter 1. Observing the armies on the battlefield and the consequences of war.